The Print Off the Cuff with Shekhar Gupta.
My great privilege and honor to host on this very unusual off-the-cuff conversation with Amrullah Saleh. Amrullah Saleh, a young man at 52 who's seen a lot in these very young years. He's been Vice President of Afghanistan. He's been the head of the intelligence agency, NDS, in Afghanistan. He's been the Interior Minister and among the wisest and the most visible leaders in the Republic of Afghanistan until the events of January 2021 ultimately led him into exile. I'm grateful that he agreed to speak to us from somewhere in Eastern Europe. I also defer to his request to not do it on video because there are security issues, and I'm grateful also to him to let us use his voice and publish this interview. When you hear it and when you read the text version, you will see the amount of wisdom and experience in somebody who's still just 52 years old, and the passion also with which he speaks about his country. Welcome to this conversation, Amrullah Saleh. I take the liberty of addressing you by your first name just partly because you are so youthful, and second, I'm much older than you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Shekhar Gupta. It's a privilege and it's an opportunity to speak to you. I'm glad we have this chance. I'm at your disposal.
So, Amrullah, you've led an adventurous life. From what I read from published material, at a very young age, you did join the Mujahideen, but on Ahmad Shah Massoud's side, you're a Tajik, and then rose in politics, educated yourself very well, and also emerged as a kind of modern English-speaking spokesperson of your country. What's the state of your country now? And the state of the world is now in a flux, particularly with the rise of Donald Trump. So where do you see Afghanistan, the Taliban, and the prospects for your country and the region?
Well, after the fall of monarchy in 1974, since that time till today, Afghanistan has unfortunately remained a very unstable country, a very fluid situation. And the rise of the Taliban is another episode in the turbulent modern and contemporary history of Afghanistan. Of course, in this episode of history, fanaticism, radicalism, and religious bigotry has manifested and demonstrated itself in ways unprecedented in history, but it also is rooted in what happened to my country in the 1980s. In the 1980s, the West and the rest of the allies of the West used to call the Soviet Union a godless empire.
Right.
So they financed and sponsored religious fanaticism to fight the Soviet Union. And gradually, by the passage of the time, a monster was born out of that adventure of 80s, which is now called Taliban. This type of manifestation has no precedence in history. You, as Indian, you may have very rightfully and very legitimately, you have historical grievances, and there's a dark chapter of Indian history in the era of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, if he was a Taliban, he would be considered ultra-modern.
Okay. The Taliban would not find him Islamic enough.
No.
Hmm.
No, they will flog him.
I see. And why do you say so? And what is it that they would find objectionable about Aurangzeb?
Well, in Afghanistan, we have a very dignified and a very honorable minority called Ismailis.
Right.
They are a denomination of Islam.
Right.
Over the past 1 year,
Right.
the Taliban are literally abducting their children and reconverting them.
Oh.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if a district of Afghanistan or a province of Afghanistan was fully Hindu? Not, a dot here, a dot there, that's another thing.
Right.
It's another thing that the Taliban showcase sometimes, that they welcome an Afghan of Hindu faith or an Afghan of Sikh faith and talk to him. It's one thing.
Right.
But can you imagine a minority in under the Taliban, if they are not tolerating Ismailis, and they whip their children, they abduct their children, convert them to Hanafi. It's like children, of one caste of Hindu being kidnapped by another caste and converted to Hinduism. That's how it is, So therefore, I think that's why I said Aurangzeb, who legitimately by Indians is regarded as the most fanatic leader during the Muslim rule, he, for the Taliban, or in the scheme of the Taliban, things would be considered an ultra moderate figure. So that's how bad they are.
Yeah, that's how bad they are. But now they are there. So what's the future?
You see, as I said, they are an episode. They are an episode in our history, and they are not going to be a lasting episode. Nothing that they do is signaling their long-term survival. The country has no constitution. It has no written laws. They give reference to Sharia law. And Sharia law is basically a series of texts written in hundreds and tens of books for a common man to understand how he can adhere to the Sharia law. It's a massive confusion. They are not responsive. They are not accountable. They have taken Afghanistan to a complete isolation. They are there, so are other groups, but the country lacked a consensus on how to go forward. For the first time that we had consensus, a constitutional consensus for transfer of power. It was the last republic, which had made it extremely clear how to get into politics, how to play it.
What do you describe as the last republic? You mean the one under Ghani?
It is 2004 to 2021.
That's right.
So the country, for the first time, which had a constitutional clarity on succession,
right,
was the constitution of the republic. That's not gone. That's completely gone. So as I said, we have a situation in Afghanistan. It's unprecedented in human history, and it is failing already. It has not impressed anyone, including the Islamic countries who find the Taliban version of Sharia, completely ununderstandable and very dark. Everybody is, nobody is taking the risk or to say the shame to recognize them. they are an episode, and they will be gone.
Do you put a time frame to it?
The time frame cannot be a wish. It cannot be an imagination. The time frame directly relates to a series of internal factors, external factors, and also the relationship between the external dynamics and the internal dynamics. So taking into consideration these three dimensions of the situation, I would like to state the following. Economically, the Taliban generate $2.5 billion from customs revenue, from taxation, and from extractive industries. They make $2.5 to $2.8 billion annually. And they use this money largely for consolidation purposes, which means expenses for defense, interior, intelligence, and office of Mullah Haibatullah, the PVPV. This is promotion of virtue and prevention of vice.
Yes.
And Ministry of Religion. They have a deficit of $4 billion.
Right.
So far in the past 3 years, the deficit was filled by Biden administration because Biden wanted to compensate his strategic disastrous mistake by injection of funds in order to keep the Taliban quiet, in order to suppress the opponents of the Taliban, and somehow present that, yes, the withdrawal did have an impact, and the impact was only marginalization of the women and crashing of the women's rights. Everything is perfect. But the Americans used to pay $4 billion to subsidize that image. If there is any fluctuation in the American or Western decision in regards to that amount of funds, which I will break down for you how they give it to the Taliban, then it will create earthquake, economic and financial earthquake in the Taliban. And the Taliban will not be able to completely use domestic income for consolidation, and therefore the internal revolt will become much, much easier. So therefore, the Taliban clerical rule is a US-sponsored rule to this date.
Or would you say, can I interrupt? Would you say US-sponsored rule or Biden administration-sponsored rule?
Well, you see, Biden was US president for 4 years, and still he is in office. So I think Biden is not a billionaire to sponsor the Taliban. He wasted American tax money. To sponsor and keep the Taliban afloat. But let me now articulate to you or break down for you the amount of assistance and type of assistance that the Americans gave to the Taliban.
Yeah.
Number one is this weekly cash. And according to Segar is the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, acronym Segar.
What does C stand for? What does C stand for?
It is S.
Central. Okay. Central Inspector.
It is a special.
SIGA. Okay. All right.
Segar.
Special Inspector General for Afghan Reconstruction.
Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction.
Right.
According to Segar, in 2024, for the first 10 months of 2024, Biden administration shipped $884 million in cash to the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
It's available on Twitter. You can look at it.
Right.
So let me break down the American sponsorship of the Taliban. First is the cash shipments.
Right.
Second is they print Afghan currency for the Taliban.
I see.
So according to the Taliban Central Bank, in 2024, United States printed 80 billion Afghanis for the Taliban.
Uh-huh.
And that would be $1.2 billion.
Right.
So this is the second type of assistance. The third type of assistance is that some of the suspended projects which were during the Republic financed or sponsored by World Bank and Asian Development Bank, the Americans have quietly okayed the resumption of those projects. So that is the third type of assistance. The fourth type of assistance is the Americans print passports for the Taliban. And so far, they have given 7 million passports to the Taliban. And the Taliban sell these passports between $200 to $2,000 each. So that's another income.
So tell me, when Americans print this currency for Afghanistan, how does that become a money transfer? That's just currency with no value.
No. They print it in Poland.
Okay.
And then they ship it by direct chartered flights to Kabul.
No, that of course. But with that money, what value is that money in Afghan markets or anywhere?
Well, it's currently the Afghan currency, because of the American intervention, is stronger than Indian rupee.
Uh-huh.
So what is the Indian rupee to dollar today?
I'd say 84.50.
So Afghani is 68.
Uh-huh. But that means there must be a dollar value sitting there for this to be like that.
Exactly. This is part of the conspiracy. It is more positive speculation. It's more, more info operations, psychological operations, that they have kept this Afghani strong and valuable. If there was no American intervention, in the spring of 2022, the Afghani was losing value almost 5 to 10% per day. And then the American intervention came and they stopped it. It was the time when Taliban closed the money market, etc.
And what is the street value? I mean, there must be a street market for the dollar.
This is the street value.
Oh, this is street
68
value.
68 to 71.
I see. Because I remember we used to go to the money market, which was mostly run by the Sikhs those days.
Yes, it's the street value is this, So, basically this cash shipment, which the Americans fly with a chartered plane every while from Iraqi city of Suleimania to Kabul.
Uh-huh. So first in Poland, they print in Poland, bring to Iraq, and then to Kabul.
No. The Poland aspect is the Afghan currency.
I see.
I'm talking about the dollar shipments.
Okay. That is Suleimania.
They physically take tens of millions of dollars every 10 days or fortnight from Suleimania city in Iraq, and they fly it to Kabul.
Which means some of the Taliban leaders are getting very rich also.
Absolutely. So you ask me how will they, they are there. No, they are not there. I mean, the Taliban rule is as much or as you can imagine, resting on a number of factors which are not under the control of the Taliban. One of them is the economic aspect.
Right.
If for any reason the West decreases the assistance, halts the assistance, or it wants to use the assistance to pressure the Taliban will collapse because they do not have enough domestic revenue. They claim to have in the security sector something like 437,000 personnel.
Right.
Right? If the figure is true, which my organization has found out that like 100,000 of those paid in the system are ghost. They do not exist.
Okay.
They are buddies of the Taliban commanders, etc., but they are not existing. So let us take their figure for face value, and let's say that yes, 437,000 Taliban militias do exist. And if we very, very conservatively calculate the cost of maintenance, food, medical care, clothing, logistics, salary, $500 per person per month. This itself easily makes the Taliban military and security budget over $2.5 billion. So the assistance of the West, which is being done very silently, because this is the most shameful and disgraceful assistance they are providing. They do it very silently, and they create pretext for it, that it's humanitarian, it's for NGOs. You cannot find a single case in history where NGOs are delivered with cash, and where NGOs are not putting their names on the website which NGO is receiving the money. Anyway, there are 278 Western organizations in Afghanistan, and there are 2,169 local NGOs. These organizations totally employ up to 80,000 Taliban vetted and Taliban certified Afghans who are beneficiaries of the Western cash and financial assistance. So this is what is keeping the Taliban afloat.
Now, we know you said Biden is not a billionaire.
But also, I have to. But that was a very small part of the external aspect.
Right.
Let me also concentrate a little bit on the domestic aspect.
Right.
The Taliban structure, as we have profiled it, it is between 93 to 98% Pashtun.
Right.
So that's not very natural. That's not very natural, and it will explode. And explosion will be very costly. And it is an inevitable explosion is on the way. It's on the way.
Because of its total Pashtun domination.
Well, I mean, it's not sustainable domination.
Yeah.
The country has very low economic base. It's dependent on the charity of Biden, and it is oppressing over 70% of its own population. I mean, look, if oppression and cruelty was a means to continue, Myanmar would have been in good situation right now. And as far as I know, Myanmar has lost 50% of its territory to insurgents.
More, I suspect more. That's the reason Chinese are getting very alarmed now, because they've taken a couple of garrison towns close to Yunnan province on the other side. I mean,
the thing is, I mean, what is waiting for Afghanistan? I mean, Myanmar will look like child play with it.
so how do you think will the Taliban now respond to Trump administration? Could they buy peace with them by making a few relaxations about women?
First of all, let's not forget that the Doha Agreement between the United States and the Taliban was signed when President Trump was in office, his first administration.
Right.
Now there are a lot of talks going on that he was deceived by his negotiating team, which was led then by Zalmay Khalilzad, and the compromise, the unprecedented, disgraceful compromise the Trump administration showed to the Taliban, Trump 1 showed to the Taliban, was actually architectured by the team, and the team exploited President Trump's naivety and his lack of understanding of the details of the Afghan situation. And he didn't know that the Doha Agreement was so bad for the United States and for the people of Afghanistan. But anyway, let's not forget that it was signed when he was in power. And prior to the signing of this agreement, I was with President Ghani visiting Germany. In the sidelines of Munich Security Conference, we met Pompeo, his Secretary of State, along with German Minister of Foreign Affairs and along with NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg. And they came to brief President Ghani on the situation and the status of the negotiations in Doha. And the briefing was very arrogant. It was full of hubris. Then President Ghani looked at me, because I had already prepared myself for such an interaction with the American delegation. He asked me if I could respond and tell him what are the downsides of bypassing the Afghan government and signing an agreement with the Taliban. I counted 11 reasons, amongst which was exactly the prediction that whatever you name this agreement, at the end of the day, it will boost the morale of the radical groups all over the world, one. Secondly, America will not be able, after signing this agreement, particularly by bypassing a government with which you have written and signed bilateral agreements, binding bilateral agreements. You shred those papers and you give precedence and preference to agreement with an insurgent terrorist group. Are you sure you are able to defend your standing and reputation and prestige after this? Of course, I counted a lot of other reasons which attracted his attention. And what they did afterwards, the day that they signed the Doha Agreement with the Taliban, the same day, NATO Secretary General and Secretary of Defense, US Secretary of Defense, they came to Kabul and they issued a declaration reiterating that the Doha Agreement does not mean that the United States will abandon its alliance with the Afghan Republic and ally with the Taliban. That was also a deception. They didn't mean it. Their priority was to deceive the Republic to the very last moment when the last American departs. And they had issued immigration visa for major commanders, for special forces, for people who had very critical jobs in the security sector. They had actually somehow emptied the Republic by exploiting the dependency of the Republic on the logistics from the Western side, on financial dependencies of the Republic. Why? Because now Khalilzad admits that it was meant to hand over the country to the Taliban, so there is a unified administration. So Doha Agreement was a coup d'etat backed by NATO, backed by United States, architectured by the negotiating team of the United States led by Zalmay Khalilzad. So now they say the Taliban have breached it. There are 4 parts in that agreement. Part 1 is Taliban commit themselves to decouple themselves, distance themselves from terrorism. Which terrorism? The terrorism that threatens safety and security of the American mainland and its interest. It's not terrorism that threatens the region. So let's be clear. That aspect is very selfish. It's not terrorism that threatens humanity. It's terrorism that only threatens the United States. That's one. So have the Taliban fulfilled their obligation as far as the first part of this agreement is concerned? We don't know, because the scale is with the CIA, the scale is with Western intelligence agencies. But as far as groups threatening constitutional order in the region is concerned, Taliban are very proudly assisting those groups. They are harboring Ansarullah, which wants to topple the government of Tajikistan. They are harboring Uyghur militants, and they are harboring Kashmiri militants. They are harboring Baluchi militants who are fighting Iran, etc., etc. There are a number of groups, maybe 4 or 5 groups, very active inside Afghanistan, who are protected, harbored, trained, and sponsored by the Taliban. And the United States very deliberately did not include these groups in the list of terrorists that the Taliban have to abandon. The second part was safety
Amrullah,
of United...
Can I interrupt? Now, the first part, what's your sense of whether, what about Al-Qaeda elements? Do they also survive in Afghanistan, and are they regrouping? Because I see some long tweets by somebody who's been doing this from the intelligence side in America, who's been part of the negotiations, she claims, Sarah Adams, who says that because of family relationships, etc., between Taliban leaders, Baradar in particular, and Osama bin Laden's family, one, that AQ is being revived, and second, that there is a clear AQ-Taliban connection.
There is absolutely no doubt that there is an AQ-Taliban connection. There is a very deep bond between the two. But you have to take into consideration terrorism is not a valid currency in the international politics of the United States anymore. So we are singing the wrong song to attract the attention of Washington. They have developed capabilities which they claim can be deployed to foil attacks, foil plans of terrorists without deploying troops on the ground. They believe that they have now intelligence collection capabilities, which has minimized the need of the United States to have eyes and ears on the ground. They have developed the so-called over-the-horizon capabilities, which gives them, free hand to operate any part of Afghanistan from above the skies and no need to coordinate with people on the ground. So if we go back and sing the narrative of the 2001, 2002, that's very old narrative. We have to move out of that cage. We have to move out of that situation. Terrorism for the West has a new meaning today. It doesn't have the same meaning it used to have in 2001 all the way to 2011. So I would say Al-Qaeda is largely an irrelevant organization for the West. So why should we consume our time telling something to our Western audience which makes no relevance today? So with that said, let me finish the 4 points,
Right.
but I will come back to the issue of terrorism.
Right.
The second part was safety of American withdrawal.
Right.
For the safety of American withdrawal, there was two strategic mistakes. A, the Americans violated the bilateral security agreement they had signed with the Republic, and they violated another very vital document called Strategic Partnership Agreement, SPA, which they violated. According to those documents, the U.S. had to notify the Afghan Republic about its departure and treat the Republic as a partner for safety of the departure. They instead engaged the enemies of the Republic for that, which means if you are a junior partner, if you are a weaker partner, there is no way you can keep the United States committed to the legal documents you sign with them. So this is not going to be forgotten. This is going to stay as a stain in the forehead of the American foreign policy gurus for a very, very long time. Yes, we have weaker voices. We may not be taken serious, but those who are in the state affairs, they use this example of America not respecting its signature. When it suits them, they will just depart without notifying you. So the second mistake in this area was that they paid a very, very hefty price to the Taliban. They put pressure on us, and they made fake promises to us that if you do this, we will do this. They didn't, so we released 5,000 prisoners. They were not supposed to go to the front. They did. And Khalilzad lied to us all the time, and apparently he lied to the U.S. administration too. And third, they in a way, they assisted the Taliban in capturing the Afghan towns. What do I mean? Because all the American mentors who were in our military units, they were through Doha in contact with the Taliban. So they would notify the Taliban, we are now out of this particular unit. It's up to you what you do. This is part of the secret annexes of the Doha Agreement. That is why those secret annexes are so shameful, so disgraceful, that 4 years on, they are still not revealing what was written those. The secret annexes of the Doha Agreement is basically mechanisms explained how to backstab the Afghan Republic. So the Americans paid a hefty price, practically on the ground, and they paid by their prestige, by their reputation. So that is two. Did Biden pay it? We don't care. That his Blinken did this, we don't care. Did Austin Lloyd did it, we don't care. I briefed Austin Lloyd in Pentagon. We had about 2 hours discussion with him. He looked at me eyes and he spoke very, very little, and it was clear they had made their minds. This was less than a month before the fall of Kabul. I told him, Mr. Secretary, you say you are backing the Republic, but every single logistical contract you have for the support of the Republic ends on September 1st. Why? Without any exception, all logistical contracts are ending, and the contractors to which we are so dependent, they are leaving. Why? He had no answer. And I said, what if the Taliban put a very suffocating siege around Kabul? Do you do anything? He said, we will send a general to Kabul, discuss these details. And the general who came was a panicked general who did not know what to do, and he joined the rest of the team in deceiving us. So the safety of the withdrawal was item 2. Item 3 was inter-Afghan negotiations, which never happened. Item 4 was permanent ceasefire, which never happened. So if the Trump administration wants to revive the Doha Agreement, there are 2 unfinished business, ceasefire and inter-Afghan negotiations. Will they have resources to go and pressure the Taliban for these 2? I am not sure, but you see the agreement between the 2 parties is void, and it is empty, and it talks nothing about the values and principles, etc., etc. So, what will the Taliban do? I think the Taliban have 3 American hostages. They may gift these hostages to Trump to create a positive headline for him.
Are these American Americans or Afghan Americans?
2 of them are Anglo-Saxon Americans. One of them is Afghan American, Mahbub Shah Habibi, who was running a undercover telecommunication company, and reportedly he had a role in locating al-Zawahiri. So these 3 Americans, the Taliban may gift to Trump to create a positive headline for him and to sort of have a sweet beginning. The Taliban may then request the CIA to brief Trump on their collaboration with American security establishment about the number of probably a number of cases they had jointly worked together, against who I cannot speculate. I don't want to speculate. So the Taliban have a couple of relevant playing cards in their hand. But as far as the values concerned, I will count 4 values which the Taliban will not commit, as far as I know, and I know from yesterday. Yesterday, I got documents from internal Taliban discussions, and these documents clearly reveal that these 4 items, which I just count now, they will not negotiate with the Americans. Number 1, they will not relax their policies on women. They will not open up the girls' schools, and they will not allow women to work as independent human beings in the sphere of economy, governance, whatever. That's one. Number two, they will not respect Afghanistan's signature on international conventions and treaties. They are against even the United Nations Charter, let alone other documents, legally binding documents that Afghanistan as a state has signed over the past 70, 60 years. They will not do that. And number three, they will not open up a constitutional path, because the moment they do this, they think they will fragment, and they will fragment from within, and there will be a lot of external pressure on them, and their fragmentation will speed up. And the last is they will not agree to hold negotiations with their opponents. This they will not. These are the four things they will not do. So the question comes, if they do not do these four things, will Trump, because the Taliban secretly help US and supposedly counter terrorism, will Trump recognize them? No, he will not recognize them. So the stalemate between the Taliban and the United States, very likely, let me repeat, very likely may continue, and it will not be in the interest of the United States to recognize the Taliban, because if they recognize them, they have to engage with them more openly. And the Taliban is nothing but a point of embarrassment. It is stinking stain on the forehead of the Western civilization. So they will not recognize them. And also, if they recognize them, it will tie their hand from potential drone operations against the Taliban in the future, because you do not bomb a state, you bomb a non-state entity. So the Taliban are not designed to become a state. They are designed to be what they are. And that's a more nuanced answer to your question.
Yeah, and if I may add to this, so how do you suggest India deal with the Taliban?
You see, let's be honest, and let's be also let's not envelop our words or abstract it. Is India, in regards to the situation of Afghanistan, going to have a conduct of its foreign policy with complete strategic autonomy, full independence, not affected by policies of Western countries and other countries in the region? Will India have a policy of its own, as I said, completely, totally Indian, unlinked to what the West thinks, unlinked to what other major countries in the region think? That's one scenario. The other scenario is India not taking the risk of having a policy of its own, but it will have a policy of its own, largely shaped by worldview of what is happening in Afghanistan. So we are talking about these two different scenarios. Let's first of all look at the scenario one, where India says, okay, West is West, China is China, Russia is Russia. We as India want to handle it the way we would like. In that scenario, India is seen by Afghans as a civilization, as a united diversity, as a country of values and principles. They should not associate India with Taliban. They should deal with Taliban as a group, but they should also communicate to the Afghan people, we do not treat them as your representative. It's a group. It's a group which has military control for now, but we also respect the diversity of the Afghan society. We respect the diversity of your culture, your history. It will be extremely disappointing if India treated the Taliban as the representative of the Afghan people. I hope India does not disappoint the tens of millions of Afghans, because the Taliban is a temporary episode in our history and they will be gone. The image and standing of India in the Afghan society has survived so many turbulences in the past. It should not become a victim of engagement with the Taliban now. But if India wants to align its policy with the rest of the world, then India has a very weighty voice in the UN and in the West and elsewhere. They have to modify the Doha Agreement and they have to put their weight in lobbying for modification of the Doha process, open up the space for other Afghan political entities to have a role, and India can do it. And the hope is that India does it independently and it doesn't become, just a spectator of the Afghan situation. Can India be indifferent to Afghanistan? No, because Afghanistan is in a way linked by land to India. I told you about disappearance of tens of thousands of weapons. I mean, where are they disappeared? Where are they disappeared? So India cannot be indifferent. We have civilizational ties, we have cultural ties, we have religious ties. And these ties are not just, with a remote land that do not know each other and they have exchanged ambassadors during the course of history. No, it's not like that. So Afghanistan must be a priority for India. Afghanistan must be a priority. And in which the Taliban is a small part, and a part which has already signed for its own disappearance with these very bad repressive policies.
Right. So, Amrullah, you said Biden is not a billionaire. We know that. But Biden's successor is a billionaire. And in any case, Biden's successor is not known to give anybody any of his own money. But you think he will continue to give the Taliban American money?
You see, there is no black and white situation in the West. I'm following the Western dynamics and politics, and I also follow the voices from the global South to the extent possible. I speak Russian, so I also hear the voices of leaders who are trying and advocating for a new, for a restructured world order.
Right.
So let's from the West, let's first of all concentrate on geopolitics.
Right.
If the calculation is that we are feeding tens of thousands of venomous snakes in Afghanistan called Taliban militia, this is an opportunity for us and it is a problem for the region and the neighborhood. It's good that we are far away from the evil, but the evil is our proxy and it's going to hurt others and it's not so distant from us that it cannot hurt us. there is this type of theory as well.
Yeah, so keep them busy. Basically, then this becomes protection money.
Well, not necessarily protection money. Protection is one aspect, but this is also, feeding this monster against others, I said.
Others.
Arabs.
Okay.
Others.
Okay, all right.
It's you feed them and you nourish them, but they are distant from you, but they hurt others.
Right.
So this is one aspect. If America was to act based on principles, values, and ethics, they should suspend the shipment of cash to the Taliban a day after Trump is in the office.
Right.
But if they disregard ethics and values and they act very selfishly and they justify alliance, a secret alliance, proxy alliance with a group like Taliban, merely because they will not hurt Washington and everybody else if it is hurt, that Washington doesn't care, that will mean total collapse of morality in the Western power structure. Will Trump be a man of ethics, or he will step over ethics and he will follow Biden in a way and be influenced by the deep state? I don't want to make a judgment right now.
Because, Trump is definitely not a man of ethics, that we know. But will he reverse this just because Biden was doing it, or will he be convinced by the deep state to say, listen, this is costing us some money, it's not too much money, it was costing us trillions to go fight it. Well, let them be. It's the Afghans. They want to keep their women under shrouds. How is it our problem?
You see, the thing is, superpowers are superpowers not because they can kill a lot or they can generate wealth and money. It's about morality too. It's too easy to say, because they are superpower, they can be a moral power they wish and they can be immoral power as they wish. The standing and reputation of America post-Afghanistan is not as it used to be.
Right.
Not because America is less powerful, not because America is poorer, because the world believes that America is compromising ethics. It's compromising
the basic principles.
Compromising basic principles. If Trump continues the path to compromise of principles and values, his slogan that let's make America great again will actually mean let's make America lesser and lesser again. It will not be great. Greatness is in morality. People around the world, no matter which religion, no matter which belief system, no matter which political system, they respect Gandhiji. He was not a boxer. He was not a billionaire, and he was not a masculine man. He was all about the skin and ribs and barefoot. What is Gandhi all about? An embodiment of values.
Yeah.
So therefore, we have to be very careful in definition of power here. America has a chance to repair its image, and America has an opportunity to follow the path of becoming more evil and evil.
Right. Now, we've seen these congressional hearings with Waltz asking questions, giving Sullivan a hard time on Afghanistan. We've seen Trump saying that every general, every officer who was involved, senior officer who was involved in the disgrace of Kabul, I want their resignations on my desk on day one. Trump's choice of Secretary of Defense is interesting. So, I mean, how do you read all of that? Does all of that add up to something?
You see, first of all, the people who were somebody during the withdrawal or the time leading to the withdrawal, then they are no longer there.
Right.
The CENTCOM commander is no longer there. General Miller is out. Blinken will be out. Inevitably, Tom West was sidelined, his office abolished. Ambassador Richard, the last U.S. charge d'affaires in Afghanistan, the worst ever diplomat I have ever met in my life, a complete liar, is out. Khalilzad, as Trump himself one time called him, con man, he is out. I think it's a good headline if we read it. President Trump wants all those responsible resign day one. That's history. What people expect Trump to do is shape the future. Shaping the future comes from articulation and engendering new policies and creating mechanisms for implementation of those policies and reaching out to the Afghan masses and Afghan political groups and correcting what they have caused. America has caused a massive human disaster post-2021. I am not inviting American troops back. I am not inviting American military infrastructure in my country. I am saying another thing. Dear America, please stop cash shipments to the Taliban. Dear America, do not try to silence the Afghan opposition voices. Dear America, do not be hypocrite in my country, which you are today under the disgraceful rule of Biden. It doesn't matter how much if this guy or that guy is to present his or her resignation to President Biden. It matters really too much and very much what will happen in March, April, May, June, July 2025 in the big policy of the United States of America. That's more important.
Yeah. So you mentioned Khalilzad. So Zalmay Khalilzad, who's been around a long time, he's suddenly become very active on Twitter, and he's addressing the Pakistani constituency a lot. Also he's supporting Imran Khan. Are these job applications for Trump administration? He wants to be some kind of an AFPAC job ambassador or job or something again?
You see, Khalilzad has skills, but he has no soul.
But does Trump care whether somebody has soul or not?
Well, you asked me about Khalilzad, not Trump's view of Khalilzad. Yeah. I say Khalilzad has the skills. He has no soul.
Yeah, right.
He has no dignity. If he had a dignity, he would have not facilitated handover of Afghanistan to the Taliban, a country his mother told him to respect. He says, my mother asked me to respect my country of birth, but he sold the country of his birth to strengthen the narrative of the country of his passport. So this person has no soul.
Did you deal with him very much? Did you interact with him very much?
Yes, I did interact with him very much. In 2020 to the fall of the Republic, the American policy was to sideline me. to not engage much with me because I was a voice of reason. I was a voice of logic. And my reasoning and logic was not my imagination. Amongst the Republic leaders, I had intelligence position background, and I knew the Taliban had not changed. And I also knew Khalilzad was lying to us all the time. So they were minimizing contact with me. I was not in their list of favorites. Yes, I did interact with Khalilzad. I hope to find time to write my own takeaways from the so-called peace process, which was not a peace process. I want to give you very briefly 2-3 examples of how Khalilzad acted more on the side of the Taliban. We wanted to create a deconfliction cell.
Yes.
In order to not blame each other who escalates and who is pro-violence, who's not. Khalilzad did not allow this to happen.
What were you trying to create? Sorry, Amrullah, that one word was lost. You said we were trying to create a
deconfliction cell.
Or do deconfliction cell. All right. Yeah. Okay. And he did not allow it.
Because those days, there was a blame game, and Khalilzad had advocated for a very foolish term called reduction in violence, RIV, which never happened. He and Pompeo, they produced a letter for us saying with release of 5,000 prisoners, there will be unofficial ceasefire. It never happened. The inter-Afghan negotiations never happened. Khalilzad's very famous tweet that either everything or nothing, that was a very public lie. It's still, I think it's not deleted from his Twitter account. There were 4 agendas. There was U.S. withdrawal, ceasefire, counterterrorism, Afghan settlement of Afghanistan problem. And he had famously said either all of these 4 points or nothing. And he didn't stick to his vow. And when you ask him now, he says, yes, I did say that, but I work for US. And he implies that he has no soul and he was rented for his skills, not for his integrity.
And do you think he wants a job back now in Trump administration?
Well, he sort of presents himself and projects an image that he wants a job, but it will be a massive mistake for Trump administration to reinstate people like him in any position.
And what's with his support for Imran Khan now?
You see, Imran Khan and the Doha process, they were aligned. They were in the same frequency. Imran Khan was a co-conspirator of the fall of the Republic. It was Khalilzad, it was Imran Khan, it was ISI, it was the Qatari state. They all fooled Washington.
But Washington was happy to be fooled.
But Washington wanted to be fooled.
Yeah, they wanted to be fooled.
Let's put it this way.
So now, how do you read what's happening between the Taliban administration and Pakistan? Because it looks like Pakistan's bet has gone wrong.
Pakistan's bet went wrong in 1947.
When they
the second bit of Pakistan which went wrong was 1971.
Right.
The third bit of Pakistan which went wrong was when they said Masood and Rabbani are unacceptable, and they tried to impose Hikmatyar.
Right.
Pakistan's bit went wrong again in 2006 when they created a secret alliance with a couple of other countries, and they started to assist the Quetta Shura and the Haqqani network.
Yeah.
And Pakistan's bit again went wrong in 2014 when Ashraf Ghani, the then president of Afghanistan, 2015, went there and said, look, I'm here to negotiate, and we can negotiate everything and anything. And Pakistan's last bit went wrong when they thought that when the Taliban come, the world will deal with them logistically, diplomatically, financially, and strategically through us.
So they thought all that stardust will fall on them.
That was their calculation. They thought that Pakistan will remain the sole gateway for the Western and Arab world to interact with the Taliban.
Are you aware of a concept of octroi?
No, I am not.
So octroi is what governments charge before letting a truck or any goods into a city or into a country. So I call Pakistan's ambition to be an octroi state for Afghanistan, that anybody going into Afghanistan has to pay them, or any goods or anything of value has to pay them something.
You know, while I say all those things, I disagree with the notion that the Taliban or anti-Pakistan, or that Pakistan has lost control, or that Pakistan regrets its decision, or that the strategic depth backfires. I disagree with all these analyses.
That's fascinating. And why do you say so?
Okay, I want to count a number of circumstantial and logical evidence to tell you why all of these reasonings are not valid. Number one, I have profiled over 30,000 Taliban personnel after 2021.
Right.
None of them are graduates from Afghani madrasas. They are all linked to madrasa education system in Pakistan.
Right.
And they see Pakistan as their, as a land which empowered them, which educated them, which fed them, which clothed them. That's one thing. I mean, in the Taliban system, there is only one guy who spent a couple of years in India and he is sidelined. His name is Sher Ahmad Stanik, the deputy foreign minister.
Right.
So except him, he then fled to Pakistan and he became an ISI agent for the rest of his life. Show me a single person in the Taliban system without ISI link. So the notion that ISI was so stupid, so fool, that they fed, educated, empowered, installed all these guys only to let their own hand be bitten, it will be a very dangerous conclusion for anybody. So this is reason number one. Reason number two, there is the problem of the TTP, which the Taliban, which the Pakistanis uses as to why they are not in good terms with Taliban, Afghanistan Taliban. Actually, Mr. Gupta, for Pakistan, it's not the TTP. The TTP legitimizes the Pakistan's crackdown of the Pashtuns.
Oh, I see.
The TTP gives them legitimacy for the operations to divide the Pashtuns. The TTP gives them legitimacy and a license to maintain a massive army presence in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The actual problem is not the TTP. The actual problem is Pakistan lacks resources to manage a country of 250 million people, while its strategic relevance is less than 70s than it was in 70s or 80s. And it expects to be treated like Pakistan of 81 or Pakistan of 2002. It is not. And while Pakistan lacks financial and political strength to manage itself, there is a Pashtun awakening who are demanding that they should not be treated in a status, in politics, in economy, etc., less than the Punjab elite. And there is a smell of fragmentation. There is a smell of balkanization. And for Pakistan to crush this sentiment, then use the label of terrorism as a universal stamp to suppress these voices. TTP is a terrorist organization. Absolutely, it is a terrorist organization because it has been killing, like Taliban, are a terrorist organization. But how come the Taliban, Afghanistan Taliban are not terrorists, the TTP are terrorists? How come? So the fact is that the Pakistani state is unable to subsidize Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It is unable to subsidize Balochistan. It is unable to subsidize even Punjab. So it's a country heading more and more towards massive budget deficits, financial disparities and discrepancies. And obviously, there is a tendency for breakup, for fragmentation. And in this situation, they cannot say, we want to crush every Pashtun who wants to have more autonomy. We want to crush every Baluch who wants more autonomy. They say we fight terrorism. And they have created a mixed up situation. So that's how I see it. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3, Haqqanis, they still maintain a massive business in Rawalpindi, Karachi, and Peshawar today. I'm not talking about prior to 2021.
Right.
Number 4, have you heard the Pakistanis naming any person in the Taliban system as not being helpful? No. They are criticizing the Taliban in very vague terms. They say the de facto authorities are not helping us. Who in the de facto authorities? Is it Haibatullah? No, he is very close to them. Is it Haqqani? Is their boy? Is it Mullah Yaqub? He still has his family in Karachi. I mean, who in the Taliban is harboring TTP? Any particular person? Is it the intelligence department of the Taliban? Well, Tajmir was in Kohat for 20 years, running an IED making laboratory with very, very direct assistance of the SSG, Special Services Group. Who in the Taliban dares to support the TTP in the Taliban? Why they are not naming him or naming them? Is that be hurting Pakistan? Yes, absolutely, it is hurting Pakistan. And the TTP is exploiting the hypocrisy of the Pakistani establishment. The TTP is exploiting the ethnic divisions in Pakistan. The TTP is exploiting the policy contradictions of the Islamabad government. Those are the reasons for existence of the TTP. So the TTP says to Islamabad, if you for 20 years backed Mullah Hibatullah, Mullah Omar, Mullah Mansour, Haqqani to implement Sharia in Afghanistan, why Sharia is invalid east of Durand line? And the Pakistan government has no answer to it.
Good point, yes.
So therefore, we must be careful in saying that the Pakistan has given up on the Afghan Taliban. It has not. It may very well be a trap. You know why a trap? Let me explain to you. The Taliban claim that over 40% of the Republic era weapons have been missing. What is the meaning of missing? And they have easily leaked the serial number of these weapons. If a disaster happens somewhere and you catch some of these weapons, they can say these were missing. We had lost them. So the situation is not
so let me
simplistic as it
let me
looks.
interrupt you. Is the implication that they have gifted these weapons to Pakistan?
I tell you what.
Right.
The Pakistan border, despite all the cry from the Pakistan side,
right,
that we have problems and the problems emanate from Afghanistan, etc. The Pakistan-Afghanistan border remains the most porous border even today.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Another example. What happened to the Kashmiri militants who were with the Taliban all the way to the fall of Kabul?
Right.
And then mysteriously they disappeared.
Right.
Why we don't hear Al-Badr? Why we don't hear Jaish-e-Mohammed anymore? Why don't we hear Lashkar-e-Taiba anymore? Where are they? Has Pakistan changed its policy of sponsoring radical groups? Or there is something in motion? Let's be watchful.
What's your hypothesis?
My hypothesis is, number one, Pakistan remains a country which has deep links with the Taliban, number one. Number two, Pakistan has not changed its policy of assisting, sponsoring, training radical groups. Number three, Pakistani religious establishment sees the rise of Taliban and their power in Afghanistan as a triumphant episode of their history. And number five, those who overanalyze the differences between the Taliban and the Pakistanis, they have to be very watchful, because a surprise does not come with loud voices. I am a surprise and I am coming on and I am on the way. So therefore, a surprise of some name inevitable.
inevitable. So what is it that India should
Yes,
what is it that India should watch out for?
You see, the first thing is they are during the Republic, and I suspect even now, the Afghan masses, regardless of who they are, whether they are a Pashtun, Tajik, Uzbek, Hazara, all the Afghan masses regard it, and I hope they are regarding India as a friend of Afghan people and Afghan nation,
Right.
a friend respectful of our diversity.
Right.
My suggestion is India should not associate itself with the Taliban.
Right.
And if it wants to have engagement with the Taliban, there has to be engagement with diverse segments of the Afghan society.
Right.
The Taliban should not dictate India who to talk to and who not to. Where to invest, where not to invest, who to give visa, who to not give visa. India should maintain its image, which it had earned, not overnight, but 70 years of there, thousands of years of people-to-people relationship. India should not put at risk that reputation and that image by engaging with Taliban only. That will be, God forbidden, that will be copying Pakistan.
Right.
Because it was Pakistan's approach to associate itself with a group at the expense of, ignoring the plight, the demands, the aspiration of a population. India should find a balanced approach to retain the goodwill of the Afghan people, to sustain the image it has built over many decades.
So in
the meantime, if they have engagement, that's fine.
But does India need to worry, because India has had sort of peace from terrorism now, at least since Pulwama, which is more than 5 years, and that was also one incident after many years of peace and respite. Should India worry, or should India now settle down and think that this threat is receding?
I'm not sure any amount of terror attack will undo India, or it will derail India, or it will divide India, or it will weaken India. No, India is a massive idea. India is a massive civilization. India is a massive country. India is a massive military. India is the 5th largest economy in the world. India is a word frequently pronounced by leaders across the globe. Terrorism cannot hurt India. Terrorism can only create a bad headline for India.
But do you think
no, I'm coming to the point.
Yeah.
I'm coming to the point. We should not narrow down India's mission to preventing Pulwamas. We should broaden India's mission to stay behind its allies, to strengthen values, to show India respects diversity. And in the case of Afghanistan, I'm not seeing much communication. What does India want to say to the Afghan people, 8 million of whom have fled the country due to the Taliban? Where is that message? So, I mean, to say that India has not allowed another Pulwama, that's a very tiny part of India's mission to stop Pulwamas. But people look to India as a country of principles, values, ideas, etc., etc. India should not, sacrifice one part in favor of another part.
Yeah, but should India worry about a recurrence of terrorism or at any scale?
You see, Afghanistan has historically been a naturally very, very friendly nation towards India.
Right.
I ask you a very simple question.
Right.
Can we play Indian songs in Afghan streets?
No longer.
Can we invite a cultural team from India?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what is lost? India has lost Afghanistan.
Right.
In India's engagement with the Taliban is not engagement with a friend.
Right. So, we know that Afghanistan, any Afghans will not carry out a terror attack in India. But do you think the Pakistanis have given up that project? And if not, what should India be careful about?
You see, the Taliban are now 3 years in power, and they have, as they say, they have built over 12,000 madrasas.
Right.
So do you think in these madrasas, they are teaching diversity, respect, understanding, and multiculturalism, etc., etc.? Or what is the curriculum of these madrasas? If the Taliban, as I told you, are product of the Pakistani madrasas,
right?
So what is the curriculum of their madrasas?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
No, yeah, of course. You think an Afghan character is a solid rock character, and he will not be. Let us speak metaphorically. He will not be influenced by any factor because he's an Afghan. That is simply fine. An Afghan can be a communist, he could be a Democrat, he could be a Taliban, he could be a radical, he could be, anything.
He can be a very good cricketer, that I know.
Exactly. So I think, we understand the pragmatism of engagement, but engagement with the Taliban should not be viewed as continuation of the last 70 years or last 1,000 years before the advent of the Taliban. This is a very unnatural episode of our history.
Yeah. So, Amrullah, you are a security and intelligence czar at a very young age. You're still 52. In the Indian bureaucratic system, you will be not even an additional secretary, right? At a very, very young age, you became the head of NDS, and you've seen the ISI closely. You've locked horns with them. They've obviously played a part in many attempts on your life, serious attempts on your life. You've lost 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister. So you've seen all of that from close. What do you think is the ISI thinking now, and what do you think is the Pakistani establishment thinking now vis-a-vis India?
Number one, I have not engaged with ISI since 2010.
Right.
Because ISI has a habit, and it is part of their profession. They think Afghans out of power, they become weak, vulnerable, and easy to exploit.
Right.
So they tried after 2001. They thought I was in the same category. I was easy to exploit, easy to approach, or they could, exploit the security situation I was surrounded in, or etc., etc. I have not engaged with ISI. In my last engagement with ISI was a couple of months before I resigned from my position. And my last engagement with ISI was when General Bajwa and General Faiz Hamid, they came to Kabul, and we had a meeting with them when I was vice president. What do I want to say to you? I have dealt with ISI only from a position of strength.
Right.
I have never sat across the table with ISI to talk about regrets, pasts, mistakes, etc., etc. That's one. Number two, they have a lot of complaint about me, and I regret none of it. Absolutely none of it. The statements I have made about them, the disclosures I have made about them, the embarrassments I have caused for them in the international forums, the interviews I have given them, and I have defeated them in several public debates. I regret none of them, to say that. They do not regret what they have done to my country, to my family, to myself.
I think they might regret seeing all those assassination attempts and you failed.
Yeah, that's fine. That's right. Yeah, I know they regret that aspect very much. So I have no regrets, that they are now in a stronger position, etc., etc. I do not regret anything. That's one. Number two, what hurt me a lot during the days and the time that we had the opportunity to engage with them, they never understood really, despite having massive engagement with the Afghan people, really massive engagement with Afghan people. There was a time there would be total number of people crossing the border between the two countries would be 200,000 people per day.
Right.
Despite all that experience and opportunity to learn, they never understand and analyzed our persona, our psyche as a nation, as individuals. So every time in our bilateral discussions, every time they brought India as an agenda, it hurt me. It hurt me because I thought, as if I don't exist, and I'm here to discuss a third country. And it hardened and hardened and hardened my position. And it hardened my position to the extent that I called on India to be to enter into an alliance, not the other way around, because they disrespected our independence, they disrespected our spirit, they disrespected our psyche and aspirations. So they are an India-centric system when it comes to their philosophy of their existence, philosophy of their creation, and philosophy of their army as the largest, most powerful political party in Pakistan.
That's Pakistani army.
Pakistani army is the most powerful political party in Pakistan.
Right. Good point.
It's the most powerful political party in Pakistan, and it remains so.
Yeah.
It remains so.
So what are they thinking about India? Because they see India moving ahead. They see Pakistan falling behind. They see the gap increasing. They see Pakistan's geopolitical importance having come down, you know how much intellectual ability or how limited intellectual ability they might have, depending on how you see this. So you know their minds. What are they thinking, you think?
First of all, if you read the internal, the domestic opinion in Pakistan, it's not what you say. It's not exactly what you say. What you say is the truth, but Pakistan does not influence the minds of Pakistanis with the truth. They manipulate the truth. They manipulate the facts. And so they are thinking that Pakistan has massive potential to rise. I believe that the geopolitics and big powers rivalry will once again give them a relevance to be partner of one power or another power, and to fasten their quest for parity, with India. They are clearly seeing Bangladesh collapse of a pro-India system. They clearly see India has lost Afghanistan's friendship. They are not necessarily sharing your view or my view that they have lagged so much behind. That's not the case. But of course, there is a very wise minority in Pakistan. This wise minority is not necessarily in academia only. They are in academia, they are in the sphere of culture, they are in the economy, who are seeing their country heading towards a dead end, and they are seeing their country is stuck in the stalemate, and with this approach, no way to rise back, let alone be in the quest for parity with India. But here is what I believe. I believe that Imran Khan was an invention to create a different path for Pakistan, and that invention failed. Pakistan is back in a square one, which was created in 80s. The Nawaz family back in power. There's nothing new about them. They have suffered so much at the hands of the army that they will not offend the army again. So there's nothing new in Pakistan. There is no Erdogan factor in Pakistan. There is no Modi factor in Pakistan. There is no Trump factor in Pakistan. There is no Putin factor in Pakistan. Pakistan is basically using its recycled politicians, and it's using their recycled policies, which is not rescuing it from the situation.
So how long before they think that to get attention again, somebody might think of a 26/11 kind of spectacular quote-unquote thing in India?
As a person with intelligence background, I have to provide hard evidence.
Right.
I share the speculation. I share the being alert, the sense of being alert. But at this moment of time, for various reasons, I don't have hard evidence on my hand.
Right. Just the reading of the minds. You think they'll be tempted, or you think they'll be tempted to buy peace and quiet for some time until the time is right?
From the statements that I read from persons in power there, definitely they are not in favor of going quiet. No.
Uh-huh. And what happens to these weapons which have supposedly disappeared from the Taliban? And how many are those?
I am trying to trace them. I have the list. I'm working to find out, were they smuggled out piece by piece or container by container. I'm trying to find out.
It's that many weapons. How many are missing, you think?
70,000.
And 70,000 will be American weapons.
It's mixed, but mostly
American. And your suspicion would be that mostly the Pakistanis have them?
Which other border is porous?
Right. So the Pakistanis can use them.
As I said, I'm trying to find out what happened to those weapons. These are the 70,000 officially lost weapons.
Right.
Right? How many unofficially lost?
That I don't know. Amrullah, you are a young man. What's your day like? How do you, with what you're working on, what is it that gets you in the gut? And what's it that drives you? And what is it that you're looking forward to?
You see, my situation has changed and my aim has not. My aim is that we have a pluralistic Afghanistan. We have an Afghanistan which is owned by all peoples of Afghanistan. It's not a Taliban. We have to have an Afghanistan where diversity is respected. I am not advocating for a secular Afghanistan, but I am against the clerical, the clerical system which the Taliban have imposed. I see myself as as one dot in the history of our country. It is not easy, after all this happened, to do what I do or to say what I say. But I'm a believer, and I'm a very deep believer. I believe in Almighty, and I believe in Allah. And if I'm alive, and if I'm still struggling, yes, I have the skills. Yes, I have the experience. Yes, I have this and that. But also, I am kept alive for a mission, and the mission is not accomplished, despite displeasure and disappointment of enemies, including, as you said, circles in Pakistan. I communicate with many thousands in Afghanistan through a system which I have created in diaspora and also inside the country. We have infiltrated the Taliban system. We publish examples of our infiltration. Once in a while, we put it on our website. And there's so much to learn, both from history and what is available what's going to be available in the future or right now. I have aged. I'm in good health. I have energy. I have the networks. I'm disturbing the Taliban. I have infiltrated their system. I enjoy causing headache to them. I believe in their toppling.
You believe in their toppling. And do you worry about yourself, about your safety, given the kind of life you've led and the close shaves that you've had?
I'm a believer. I believe in the Almighty. I believe in Allah. I think the reason I am alive because my mission is not completed. So, no, I don't worry. No.
Don't worry. So I think that's wonderful, Amrullah. You have other things to do. And what exactly did you say your age was? Because I read something on internet. What exactly is your age now?
I was born 15 October 1972 in Panjshir.
Yeah, so you're almost exactly 52 years old now.
Yes, my date of my birth is It's written in the pages of, as it used to be, that the date of birth, families used to read at the margins of a page of Quran. So,
Right.
yes, that's my exact date of birth.
That's right.
The Print off the Cuff with Shekhar Gupta.